all eyes are on Nvidia today. I mean, it's like crazy. And with little other news, the market is starting up just a bit. Tesla is down just a bit, but that might be due to Business Insider's report on Berlin, which is now getting repeated. Though there's no further confirmation of a slowdown in Berlin production. We'll talk about that later. The really good news this morning is coming out of the oil patch. Well, this is Randy Kirk. If you like the morning show, this is a great time to hit like because it helps the algorithm. And that's one way you can help the show. And then hit subscribe and notify. I've got a show coming up later today that's going to be talking about this other article that's hurting Tesla right now. And that's a New York Post article that claims that Elon Musk has too much power over the US and other governments. And it might have a point. But anyway, I'm going to go into great depth about that book-length article, which nobody's going to read, but I did for you. So you'll want to see that episode later today. Hit notify so you can make sure you see that. And then potentially, possibly help produce this show. Help us get the numbers up on Patreon. That would be a great help, You can't imagine how much help that would be. All right. So is Nvidia the new Tesla? That was my thumbnail this morning. Well, I'm laughing out loud. LOL. It's hard for me to keep a straight face about such an idea. Tesla is a multi-dimensional company with huge moats around every business that they do, and every business that they do has these massive TAMs. Nvidia appears to be a fine company with great leadership. They do have some moats. They're growing really fast, and but any comparison to Tesla, please show me the other 5 or 6 or 7 divisions that also have multi-trillion-dollar potential futures. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had to ask the question because it's being asked all over the internet. So pardon me for using that thumbnail, but that's what's being asked this morning. Okay, Business Insider. Yeah. No fan of Tesla, very often wrong. I mean, it's probably one of the worst publications out there right now, although I can name a couple of others that are not very good. But anyway, they're reporting that production is down in Berlin after the reported 5,000 units per week months ago, that it's much lower than that, and that internal sources and people that they can't name and documents that they've seen are all saying this. Now, look, it may be true. I don't know if it's true. We don't have any reaction from Tesla, of course, but now it's being picked up. So Yahoo's reporting on it. Other people are now reporting that Yahoo's report. I mean, so this whole thing is being pushed, and we don't want to see anybody out there talking about Tesla not producing as much as they can anyway, but it could be part of the problem. I would love to hear more about the ramp at Berlin and Austin, because I would think that both of those ramps would be further along than they appear to be, especially with Tom Zhu getting involved in that now. Earlier this year, I suggested that if Tesla were actually seeing some demand issues that they didn't think they wanted to or could solve with pricing, and weren't using very much other marketing, that they could do what I would call a soft production cutback. That would be actually more of an increase. How did I say that? That would be less of an increase in Austin and Berlin. They wouldn't move as fast on the ramp, and that wouldn't look like they were slowing down, but it would allow them a little less production. And I don't know, that could be happening. You don't hire as many people as you're going forward, so you're not adding to overhead. Anyway, don't know. I'm not 100% in the Tesla should advertise camp, although you've heard me say it the last couple of days. Yes, it might be time for them to advertise. I believe heavily in advertising, and I think this could be a real help, especially in this environment. But there's other marketing levers they can pull. Advertising and PR, some people see those as the same thing. I would be pushing the heck out of PR. I'd have the biggest, best, most amazing PR department in the country. I would hire people. I would be paying big money to get some top people. Elon is brilliant at PR, so bring on another brilliant PR person like he typically does in the areas where he's the strongest, bring on a superhero in that department, and then go after it big. Anyway, I do think they could be pulling harder on some other marketing levers, but the narrative says that it's all out production, and you don't want to mess with that narrative. So if it's not all out production and Business Insider has tripped across something that's actually true, maybe that's why we're seeing a little softness today. TipRanks is also out this morning, say it might be time to take profits in Tesla. Not sure how much effect TipRanks might have, but there are lots and lots of folks out there who've seen a very big profit this year, even after a little slide this morning. Going from 101 to 230 is not bad. So anyway, that would just kind of maybe offset a little bit of the loving report that we got from Baird 2 days ago. Having said all that, the pre-market softness in Tesla may not survive the actual opening. Tesla was not down the 4 or 5 that it was down this morning in the pre-market. It's now, the last time I looked, it was down only a couple. Had been down as low as only 90 cents. Anyway, we'll see what happens this morning. I'll check it before, of course, we sign off this morning, and then that'll still be wrong. Anyway, oil. I listened to a very compelling interview on oil supply, how it's going to exceed demand as we get into the slower demand months. The main theory this fellow had is that the U.S. is increasing production. I just read this morning where Canada is increasing production. And then there's these 5 other countries that are the needy countries. They need the cash and they can't continue to play under OPEC's guidance. That would be Iran, Iraq, Syria, Nigeria, and Venezuela, who are all increasing production, increasing their sales, and not going along with OPEC, Saudi Arabia, and Russia in terms of trying to cut back. Anyway, we'll see what happens with all of this, but that would be huge good news for inflation going into the fall. And in fact, oil is down nicely so far this morning. Trueflation is up again, just barely. They're still staying in that 2.69, 2.7, around that area. But it's 100%. All the slight increase that we've seen over the last couple of 3-4 weeks has all been about oil and gasoline and the impact it's having on the food, on food and drink, because those, food and drink are dramatically impacted by the price of gas. So, but now this morning we're looking at oil being back down to from 84 at the high back to 77.5 this morning. And as we head out of the summer months and into more of an off season with regard to gasoline, we could really see that start to slide, and that could really, really help the overall inflation fight and take us closer to what I think is going to happen. I think we will still, the Trueflation might go into negative territory before the end of the year, or certainly in the first quarter. I've been talking about actual deflation in the Trueflation index. So 10 years are slipping this morning down to 4.24 in the early going. We'll check that again, of course, in a minute. The 2-month and the 2-year were also down last time I checked. Housing inventories continue to be at crazy lows. According to various sources, 50% of the inventories pre-pandemic, and I can tell you that I was writing blogs and emails for my clients in the real estate area in the pre-pandemic time, talking about how inventories were at historic lows. I mean, year after year, they were at historic lows. And then the next year, they would be at even more historic lows. And then the next year, they'd be even lower. And now they're 50% of those numbers. Some reporting is saying these are the lowest they've been in 34 years. I think that probably, I would love to look at that a little deeper. Maybe I will. But mortgages are now at 21-year highs. Let's talk another minute, for a second, about interest rates. The interest rates at this point are probably not going to slow the economy that much more. Restrictive lending might, but I don't think it's interest rates. Remember, a 4.3 in 10-year is normal. No, not normal for the last 10 or 15 years, normal over history. Mortgages are a bit high at 7.3, but 6.5 would be absolutely normal. 6%, 6.5, even 6, 7, 6, 8. That's normal. Businesses and consumers have adjusted to these mortgage rates, but how do you adjust to 50% of pre-pandemic historic lows in what that's doing to drive up the price of houses? Okay, what do you do when there's not very many new houses coming on the market? So these interest rates will be going down, I believe, anyway, but they don't need to for the economy to stay strong. And that is something that only a few of the pundits on Wall Street and apparently only some of the people on the Fed are getting. Right now, it would be better to drop those rates, not to stimulate the economy, to stimulate the potential housing, people to get into the housing markets, more people to build more houses, more people to build more plants, more people to build more things that would increase productivity. And productivity is going to be going. There's 4 or 5 pundits out there, 4 or 5 analysts out there that keep talking about productivity, and they're the smart guys because productivity is what it's all about. Anyway, I think that we'll see housing prices dropping over the winter. Of course, they generally do. They flatten out or go a little bit lower over the winter. But next spring, I think housing prices are going to be jumping like crazy. Right now, 25% of the housing purchases are investors and 40% are all cash. That's just going to be the same in the spring. It's maybe even higher as the investors try to get in there. Similar inventory, there's not going to be a dramatic increase in inventory next spring, and the demand, pent-up demand by actual, folks that want to buy a house, not just the investors, is going to be at all-time highs. Anyway, turns out that Texas has tied Lexus Tesla has tied Lexus for the lead in customer satisfaction among luxury automakers, according to a new study. The American Customer Satisfaction Index, ACSI, is a national indicator of the quality of economic output for goods and services. So Tesla had been around 4 points lower than Tesla. Tesla had been 4 points lower than Lexus. Lexus came down a little bit. Tesla went up a little bit, and now they're dead flat even. We've been talking about a substantial possible increase in the sales of the Model 3 if the look and the prices are right. Now there's rumors out of Shanghai suggesting that maybe Tesla thinks that the demand is going to pick up pretty dramatically. So there's this battery pack or battery production line that have been taken offline in Shanghai, and that is, according to rumors, is being put back into production because of the ramp that's coming on Model 3. Interesting. If true, we'll keep watch on that. Tesla is now the world leader in sales of energy storage products. This is huge. And while it's irrelevant in terms of the overall business, because the TAM is unlimited, and it's really just a matter of who can make the most of these battery packs, it's always interesting to see these markers. It also appears that when Tesla is fully ramped in Lathrop, which I believe will be first quarter, maybe even end of this year, that production alone would end up representing 30% of worldwide shipments. Now, when Shanghai is ramped, Tesla could be approaching 50% of worldwide shipments. And of course, you and I we all believe that there will be other announcements soon of other mega pack factories that are being ramped up. Many are asking why the ramping is so slow in Lathrop. There were these very specific parts that were needed that apparently were unable to be made any faster. Those are supposed to be coming in September or October very shortly. So that's why we should see the finalization of the maximum ramping in Lathrop, and those very same parts might be the thing that's keeping Shanghai from announcing any kind of the beginning of production. Not sure. Those are my speculations. Have no idea, but that's all I know about the subject. Okay, the big news today is going to be all about Nvidia. We'll see what happens after the close. We'll see what happens in the after hours, because apparently there's all kinds of options activity, and things could be actually blowing up after hours today. But then tomorrow morning, all that'll be over. I mean, sure, it'll have some impact in the morning on the stock market, but there's going to be, the attention is all going to turn to the Jackson Hole and the Fed statements coming out of Jackson Hole Thursday and Friday. The best we can hope for is a very neutral statement, are just about the same as we heard a week ago. Nothing more hawkish. Lovely if we heard something more dovish. Maybe they'll point out that oil has dropped from 84 to 77.5. That would be great. Maybe they'll mention that. Just the mention of it might cause the stock market to get more excited. What are the traders expecting? Well, check out the bonds. We'll check that in 2 seconds. Check out the dollar and oil. What are they doing ahead of the meeting? Stocks, especially the NASDAQ, that is going to be all on Nvidia for today and early tomorrow morning. And then Tesla, we'll see what happens, whether it outpaces the entire pack for the next 2 days, or do these negative stories have an impact? All right, let's take a look at where we are as we close up this morning's after the bell session. Tesla's back to only down $1.57. It's looking like it could head toward the green. The NASDAQ is up strongly now, up 121. The Dow Jones is up 88. So I think very good chance Tesla ends up in the green, at least in the short term. Who knows? The whole day, everything could go crazy. We always know that. The rest of it, the Magnificent Seven are all up nicely, except for Amazon for some reason, was down a bit. We've got all the Cathie Wood stocks are up this morning. Then let's go over into, we've got the crypto back to 2,600 barely. We've got the dollar strong. We've got gold